Keeping children and grown-ups safe in schools is the topic we've been exploring in our series on gun safety here at 91.9 Public Affairs. From Parkland, Florida to Marshall County, Kentucky, schools have unfortunately been the place of violence. And more recently, these stories have been coming into the news. I'm Rebecca Nanney, and we are focusing on the fourth installment of our series today. Clarksville, Montgomery County school systems, according to U.S. Census figures, is the seventh largest district in Tennessee, and of course part of a rapidly growing community. Emily Bowers is the CMCSS Health and Safety Specialist. Thank you for coming in and joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we're just going to get started and jump right in with the topic of safety options. Can you tell us more about the current safety measures being used in the local schools?
Of course. So we actually have quite a few components that we have in our current program, and one of those is the emergency management plan. So this plan is very extensive, and it's an online plan that each school in our district has access to, and along with our local law enforcement agencies and fire, they come together each year and we discuss that plan and what we need to do to improve it and what we could do to do better. We also hold security stakeholder meetings. They're held 4 times a year, where we also come together with local agencies to discuss what we could do better as far as safety and security goes in our district.
Do you discuss like drills and things of that nature? Or?
Well, there's a lot of different topics that come to the table on those days. We discuss many different items such as like graduation, the walkouts, stuff like that, things that are going on currently and what we can do to help protect the students.
Okay.
Some other things that we do school security audits. We do those 4 times a year as well. And usually we use CPD or the Sheriff's Department, and they try to gain entry to the school, also make sure that they go unnoticed, or to see if anyone will catch them in the building, and they're graded on that as well.
Okay.
And we also do tabletop sessions. So I go out to each school every year and we discuss a scenario that might occur at their building and what steps they would take during that scenario and what they could do.
Okay, what kind of scenarios do you discuss? Is it mostly like safety scenarios with active shooters, or do you discuss a wide variety of things like tornadoes, floods, such as things like that?
Each year it's a different scenario. So this past year it was a kidnapping. There's been active shooter scenarios, there's been tornado scenarios, chemical spills, things to that nature that we discuss.
Is it a different scenario for each school, or is it a different scenario each year?
Well, sometimes the middle and high and the elementary will differ a little bit, but usually it's the same scenario for each school.
Okay, that's great. And more back to the topic of protecting schools during active shooters or gun violence. I know a big topic of discussion has been metal detectors within the community and the nation, really. Do you think that metal detectors is an option for the Clarksville Montgomery County schools?
Well, I know this was brought up, it's been brought up a few times, especially since the last recent events, and Mr. House commented on this during the community forum that was held last month as well. And you kind of have to think of it like the TSA. You know, when you're going to fly, it takes quite a bit of time to get through that, and to manage 1,600 children at a high school getting in and out every day, it takes a very long time. So we would have to change like the bus schedules, change around the schedule, and it would be too long of a process to implement those in our buildings.
Okay, understandable. Are there other safety options that you guys are looking into, since metal detectors is just not a viable option for our school system?
Yeah. There's been a lot of different things discussed. In the past couple of years, we have done 15 school front entrance renovations. So that has happened. That way, as soon as you walk into the building, you have to be buzzed in to go further in the building to gain entry. And you also have to sign in with your license, a government issued ID, and that goes against the National Sex Offender Registry, and it's called Raptor. And that's something that we use in every school in our district.
And is that for visitors, or are students having to be buzzed in the mornings as well?
A lot of times students sign in as well, but it's mainly to check the government issued ID for visitors.
Okay. And has that come with good results?
It really has.
All the schools been?
Yes, it has been implemented for, I believe, 2 years now. I could be wrong about that. But it has went over very well. If there is a registered sex offender, it is alerted to the Sheriff's Department. They alert us and let us know if it's a match or not.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I had no idea that
Yeah,
that was
it's pretty awesome.
that it was background checked like that for
Yes.
visitors. So that's great.
Yeah.
Is there some discussion about, or there has been some discussion in other schools and some online news stories about fire extinguishers in every classroom used as a way to distract an active shooter if they were to come into the school? Has that been something that you're implementing within the schools in Clarksville and Montgomery County, making sure that fire extinguishers are available and, you know, everybody knows how to use them
Properly.
as more than just a
Yeah.
fire extinguisher
Yeah.
if need be?
Well, that's a great question. I haven't heard that brought up before. We have fire extinguishers in our schools where we are required to have them. They are not in every classroom. They are in, you know, our chemistry, you know, classes, biology, any vocational classes. They are in those rooms, but they are not in every classroom. We have not talked about. I mean, we discuss, you know, taking any measures necessary to counter intruder if they gain entry. So that would be a thought if there was a fire extinguisher in there. And then also all of our teachers and staff in our district do get trained on how to use a fire extinguisher annually.
Okay. Talking about some measures that you're talking about, taking any measure possible, have you guys been doing special training with the teachers specifically for active shooter drills?
Yes. So we have what's called a CRAZE training, and that's civilian response to active shooter events. I know it's been in the paper quite a bit, where any public entity or anyone in the county for that matter could sign up for the class through the sheriff's department. Well, we do that same class in our school districts as well. So currently a school could sign up for the CRAZE training through their SRO, and then Montgomery County Sheriff's Department would come out and do the CRAZE training for the school. And this past year, and altogether we've had 18 schools do this program, but in light of recent events, we are now starting to the 2018-19 school year. We're going to make it mandatory for each school to have it every other year. So CPD has now got 7 trainers on board, so in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department, they will be training all of our schools every other year.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm really glad to hear that it's become a mandatory
It
thing
is.
for, just because in the light of all of the horror that's happened over the recent years with mass shootings, that it's great that you guys are getting on top of it and making sure that everybody has that training. Along the lines of training the teachers, are you guys looking into any special requirements for the classrooms? I know you redid the front of the building to buzz people in, but say if a student did get in the morning and just walked in with a mass of other students, are there any special locks on the doors? Do the teachers have to open the doors for students to get in after they're closed? Is there any precautions there?
So the majority of the classrooms in our district, the doors are locked and shut at all times. Now, the elementary is a little bit different because, you know, you have students that are constantly back and forth having to use the restroom and whatnot. So it's a little bit different there, but the majority of the time our classroom doors are locked and shut. We do take a lot of consideration for, you know, a person blending in, and that's where those security audits do come into play. We're testing them 4 times a year for teachers to notice anyone that's not supposed to be in that building. They should know right away, and the administration in the buildings as well. So that's where they take very seriously those audits that are done 4 times a year.
Okay, awesome. And how can the community help with any of the future safety plans? Is there anything that you need from them, like volunteers or fundraising or anything that students, teachers, parents, or general community members can do to help protect our schools?
Well, one of I think the big things right now is social media. A lot of times when we're receiving threats, they are coming across via social media. And a lot of times our kids and children know about it before. You know, as soon as that threat happens on social media, they've heard about it, they know. And it's something that we take extremely serious. And so if the students make sure that they let their parents know or a teacher know or anybody, if they see anything, say something. And that's, I think, is one of the huge things that the community can do, and students as well, is to let someone know if something's off, or if they just have an unsettling feeling, let someone know.
Okay. Have you guys thought about maybe initiating, I know here on campus we have our Live Safe app, which allows us to anonymously tip things about parking or anything that we see that you know, might disturb us, like even theft on campus. We might see something and be able to anonymously tip it. Have you thought about doing something where somebody can put an anonymous tip? Because I know on social media, usually the people you're getting updates from, which could possibly be a threat, are friends or followers, people you know. And so I know a lot of kids, especially in middle school, high school, they don't want to snitch or be seen and put a target on themselves. Have you guys thought about doing something along those lines?
We actually have. It's not something that we have in place right now, but it's something that we are looking into, because you're right, that's a great way to get information with the student not feeling like they're obligated to tell who they are and feel like they're going to get in trouble by their friends or peers for that. So it is something that we are looking at. And of course, right now they can always call, you know, their local law enforcement agency to give a tip if that's necessary, but that is something that we're looking to implement in the future.
Okay, and is it going to be like an app that they can use? Will the parents also have access to it?
We're not that far into that stage yet, but hopefully so.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's very exciting. I hope to hear more about that coming, because I know a lot of students, almost all students from middle school to high school, all have their phones out all the time, even when they're not supposed to. So I know that that could be a really helpful tool. Even on campus, we use our LiveSafe app religiously, mostly for parking. But and so jumping back into it, we're going to go into the active shooter drills. Can you just tell us a little bit about how the Clarksville Montgomery County school system does an active shooter drill? Is it for all of the schools across, or do you do one school at a time?
No, so every school in our district, which there's 39 schools, they are right now required to do 2 intruder drills a year. And these are done during inopportune times. So let's say maybe at lunch, during class change, right after buses, before buses. So it has to be during a time that is disruptive. And so and starting the 2018-19 school year, we are going to start requiring that they're done 4 times a year instead of 2, because the state requires 1. And so we're pushing for more. We want them to do it more times, because by the time, if you do it in August, by the time May runs around, you've already forgotten what you've done. And another thing that we are going to start doing is, starting next year as well, is the teachers are going to be required to watch an active shooter video quarterly. So they will be watching that video 4 times a year, and the students will as well.
What do you hope that the video will help the teachers learn, or is it just kind of what is the video about exactly? Like
It's
a situation, or?
Yeah, it's an informational video, and it also just shows you what your options are if there's an intruder in the building. You know, the avoid, deny, defend method. So barricading the doors, being prepared to counter the intruder if they gain entry to the classroom, and evacuating if necessary.
Okay, awesome. And that'll be for the teachers only, and the
teachers and students.
Teachers and students.
Yes, and the elementary students aren't going to be watching the video, but middle and high will, the students, and that video is still in the works.
Okay, and so since the age difference between elementary, middle, and high school are so different, do you do as many active shooter drills for the elementary school?
We do.
Okay, and are you guys as open and honest in the procedures with those students, since they are so much younger, or is there some exceptions there?
You know, it's a little difficult to navigate because you don't want to divulge everything to the elementary students. So they know it as an intruder drill. Of course, we don't say active shooter drill. So the verbiage is a little bit different there, and it's not as in detail as the middle and high is.
Okay. Okay, and can you tell us a little bit more about possibly getting communication between the school system and the law enforcement during a drill? How exactly, if there was an active shooter, is there some kind of system in place to get immediate assistance from the school to law enforcement?
Yeah, we communicate with our local law enforcement agencies usually on a daily or every other day basis. So we're in communication with them all the time. So if something's going on or at a school, they know that they can utilize them at any time, and so does each individual school.
Okay, and so is it more of an administration reaching out to them every day?
There is, and I mean, not the administration of each school building, but also the teachers. They know how to, of course, dial out to 911. They know that they're authorized to do so if necessary.
Okay, I only asked because we did some research in a school up in Ohio, I believe. they have a direct line from each school. It's a smaller town, of course, though, from each school directly to them. So I completely understand that. Can you, we're going to get right back into some more drill safety, but for those of you just joining us, I'm Rebecca Nanney with 91.9 Public Affairs, speaking with Emily Bowers from Health and Safety, or our Health and Safety Specialist from Clarksville, Montgomery County School System, and we're discussing safety in schools in the wake of gun violence. And so to jump right back in, we're going to talk about how do you guys determine what went well and what didn't go well during an active shooter drill?
So we have what's called a safety portal where each school logs their drills that they complete, whether it's a fire, a tornado, earthquake, or intruder drill. They have to log that information in. They have to tell us the exact time of the start time and end time and any comments. So they'll write in the comments kind of what worked well and what did not, and then we review it and we either accept or deny that drill.
Okay, and so what happens if you deny a drill?
They'll get an email and they'll read the comment where we denied it and what we thought could be done better, or any suggestions that we have, and they'll either have to resubmit or edit that drill.
Okay, and so to resubmit or to edit a drill, does that mean they have to redo the drill with the school?
It could mean that, because we also do AED drills as well. So it could mean that they might have to redo it if it wasn't satisfactory.
Okay, that's awesome. I didn't know that there was an accept or deny
Yes,
process
yes.
to drills. I thought you just did it, and if it didn't do well, you try again next time.
No, our technology department actually created this safety portal for us, and we're very lucky to have it. It's a great tool for us, and the schools they get even deadline reminders, like you have 5 days to complete your drill, so they know when their drills are due and what they need to do to get that completed.
That's great. And through this portal, is it just for the schools, or is this portal also open to parents so they know when a drill is coming up?
It is not open to parents, no. I mean, a fire drill is performed every month. I mean, they have to do the 4 safety drills a year, the 2 intruder and AED. I mean, parents would be receiving notifications all the time about a drill. And I have 3 children in our district, and they go to 3 different schools. So my phone would be going off all the time.
Okay, awesome. It's good to know that the parents don't have to be bothered with that. So you said that teachers know how to call out and that there is direct communication with the police force. Is there anything besides radios and cell phones that are options for communication with the emergency system within the school, like to call out to the police if someone doesn't have access to a cell phone? Are there ground or landlines within the school that someone could get to?
Well, our buses have panic radios, panic buttons on their radios, and the schools have a radio that has a panic button as well. So there's that, and then there are landlines. Okay,
so is the panic button throughout the school? Are there multiple panic buttons within the school, or is it mostly just in the office?
It's usually just in the office or with administration. There's a couple of radios that each school has that feature.
Okay, and so this panic button, does it go directly to the city police, or does it go to the school board and then from there?
It actually goes to the school board, and when they press that button, it goes out to our front office at the school board, so they hear everything that is going on in that room. So they'll be able to know if they need to call 911 for them. Let's say if I was the front office assistant and I could not call 911 right then because the intruder was right in front of me, I could push that button, and then the front office could hear everything that was going on in the room.
That is amazing. That's a really cool feature. Have you thought about finding radios to put within schools more of that feature just for the active shooter or intruder situations?
That is something that we would be looking at. It's not something that we have right now. There's just a few designated to each school at this point.
Okay. And back to the drills, how important is advanced planning for the drills? Not just for the school system overall, but for the teachers and the students.
It's extremely important. I mean, these take a lot of time. If you think about 1,600 kids in the hallway and then doing a lockdown drill, I mean, they've got to be on their P's and Q's to do that. It takes a lot of effort, and they're doing it under 5 minutes. So a lot of times, and
Wow.
so it takes a lot of planning for our administration teams at the schools and the teachers, and a lot of times you know, they plan before the drills, and each school has an emergency management team that's composed of different personnel at the school, and so they meet twice yearly as well at each school, and sometimes more. There's a couple of schools that meet every month.
And what is their primary responsibility during the drills? Just to make sure all the students are accounted for, or are they the ones, you know, making the announcement that there's a drill and checking the doors after everybody has been locked
Well,
in?
each member, there's usually around 10 members, and they also have alternates as well, and each member has a different role and responsibility on that team.
Okay, awesome. And so for the lockdown drills, are there any rules, or, and I know here, when we have a fire drill, we don't take our stuff, we just go outside. So I know you said that you do them during really active times like lunch or something. How does that work? Do they grab their bags and then go, or are they just
A lot of
told
times
to
they
just
just
kinda
leave
go
it.
and-
Yeah, and
Okay.
it could depend on the school as well, but most of the time they just leave. They should be leaving everything in the classroom behind.
Okay, okay. And how important is it for teachers and students to talk about scenarios that where they might encounter an active shooter situation?
Well, anytime that a school, especially a middle or high school, if they're doing an intruder drill, when that drill is done, they should be talking with their students either you know, during the drill or after the drill about what those expectations are and what their options are.
Okay, and so there is time set for students to ask questions like, why do we do this? What, you know, to get the information, because I know a lot of students get their news from social media, which isn't always accurate news. And so the teachers are going back and informing them about why these drills are so important.
Yeah, in our department, we ask that anytime a drill has been conducted, especially an intruder drill, letting the students know the importance of that drill and why we're doing it.
Okay, that's great. I think that's really important because a lot of students don't get all of the knowledge when it comes to situations like this. I mean, back when I was in elementary school and middle school, we didn't have active shooter drills. It was the basic,
we did not either when I was in school.
It was the basic tornado fire,
Duck and cover.
you know, just hang out until it's over kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really good to know that we are being open and honest with the students and giving them that information that they're looking for. And so is there any information between the school board and the teachers? Like, do you guys discuss with them, say at the teacher training, about active shooter drills and what your expectations for the drills are?
Yeah, each classroom has a flip chart, and it gives responses and actions to different types of emergency situations. And then as well, it's discussed during our tabletop sessions a lot. We discuss many different things during those sessions, and they learn from that as well.
Okay, and so back to teachers and students and being, you know, fully informed, what exactly are the expectations for students and teachers during an active emergency? Like, are they expected to just hide or try to find a way out of the building, or what are they supposed to be doing during an active shooter drill?
During an active shooter drill. So one of the main things is turning out the lights and getting in an area where you could not be seen. But you also have to think about your other options as well. If you hear gunfire, can you evacuate the building? Do you have an outside door in your classroom where you could run to safety? We definitely don't advocate for staying in the classroom if you hear gunfire in your hallway. It would be to evacuate the building. Or look for things in your classroom to barricade the door so that the intruder can't gain entry. Or finding things just in the classroom like a stapler or a fire extinguisher or a desk or something that you could counter that intruder if they make entry into your classroom.
Okay, all right. And how can parents do more to help prepare their students for these types of situations?
Well, I think one of the main things, you know, that parents can do, and I think about this for myself too as a parent, is talking to our children about the importance of gun safety, because, you know, a lot of families we have guns or weapons in our homes, and especially younger children don't need to have access to. And so just knowing the importance of keeping those weapons locked up and away from children, and then talking to children about, you know, their peers. You know, I hear a lot from my teenager, a lot of things that go on, so I know quite a bit of things that he talks about. But just getting to know your kids and knowing what they're involved in, and making sure that they're telling you if something's wrong or if, you know, something doesn't feel right, letting someone know.
Okay. And so you talk about gun safety and making sure that everybody knows. In recent incidents in the news, there was a misfire at a school during a safety class about guns. Do you think that we should be having gun safety courses taught in our schools so kids know how to properly maintain a weapon, or if there was an active shooter, how to, if that weapon was dropped on the floor, how to unload it quickly? I know in the wake of gun violence, some schools have started teaching gun safety classes, and I just don't know if it would be a viable option for Clarksville, Montgomery County schools.
You know, of course, JROTC, you know, they do that to an extent, but as far as the whole district as a whole, that's not something that we have talked about that I'm aware of. It may be something that we look at in the future, but as of right now, I'm not sure.
Okay. And so do you think that parents should be taking their time, since it's not really something that the schools are looking into right now? Do you think parents should suggest gun safety classes for their older children?
Yeah, I think it depends on the age. Like you've said, for older children, I think it depends on the age and if it's necessary for that child, if they're around weapons or if they've used weapons themselves. I think it would depend on the parent and the student.
Okay. And so going back to drills, because I forgot to ask you this, what method do you guys use to inform the students that there is a drill? I know on campus, all of the computers linked into the campus system pops up with a warning that says, you know, close doors, turn off lights, and stuff like that. So I don't know what kind of method you guys are using.
It's usually through the intercom.
Okay.
Is usually how the drills are performed, or of course with the fire drill, the sound and light as well.
Okay.
So it goes through the intercom.
Okay, so the students are all well aware. I'm not sure how the campuses around all of the campuses are set up, with ours being such an open campus
it's a lot
system.
different.
We have to do a lot.
Yeah.
Text messages, computer screens. Is there anything that you would like to discuss that we haven't talked about specifically regarding safety issues on campuses or any gun safety things within Clarksville, Montgomery County?
I think you've covered just about everything. CMCSS is dedicated to student and employee safety and security each and every day. It's not something that we take lightly at all, and it's something that we are always striving to improve upon as well. So if anything I would add is just know that we do everything we can each and every day to keep all of our children safe while they're at school. Yeah.
We really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you coming in and talking with us today. We got a lot of good information, and I really look forward to possibly doing another interview once you guys figure out that possible app for anonymous tips for the kids to be able to do that, because I think that'll be a great program implemented, not only for the school board as a whole, but for each individual school and each individual student who encounters situations that they're uncomfortable with. So again, thank you so much for coming in today and joining us. This is Emily Bowers, the CMCSS Health and Safety Specialist, and I'm Rebecca Nanney with 91.9 Public Affairs.